Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. Absolutely massive news coming out of Manchester United right here, right now, as Mason Greenwood leaves Manchester United. What a yo-yo of emotions over the last 18 months this United fan base has been subjected to. Only a week ago, less than a week ago, we were being briefed that he would return. An absolute PR disaster class. Should certain people within that club be leaving with Mason Greenwood as well? I'll let you decide on that. But one player that has been fundamentally part of this story is Mason Greenwood. He will no longer be part of Manchester United's story. An official statement is come out from Manchester United. I will read it in its entirety for you. Manchester United has today concluded its internal investigation into the allegations made against Mason Greenwood. Our process commenced in February 2023 following all charges against Mason being dropped. Throughout, we've taken into account the wishes, rights and perspective of the alleged victim along with the club's standards and values and sought to collate as much information and context as possible. This has required us to proceed with sensitivity and care to obtain evidence not in the public domain, including from those who have direct knowledge of the case. Based on the evidence available to us, we have concluded that the material posted online did not provide a full picture and that Mason did not commit the offences in respect of which he was originally charged. That said, as Mason publicly acknowledges today, he has made mistakes which he is taking responsibility for. All those involved, including Mason, recognise the difficulties with him recommencing his career at Manchester United. It has therefore been mutually agreed that it would be most appropriate for him to do so away from Old Trafford, and we will now work with Mason to achieve that outcome. Effectively, it will be a contract termination from Manchester United. They haven't used those words as severely as that at this moment in time, but the message is that he will not play for Manchester United again. I'm reacting to that statement there. I'm not afraid to do that. You know, we reacted to the story 18 months ago. I feel I've got the knowledge, intelligence, and so have you to actually, deal with this live and interactively with you. I've got to say, United have to put more information out. I mean, look, I always said I wasn't comfortable with him playing for Manchester United again based on the audio and the pictures, right? We can only deal with the information we have. It never went to court, so it was never tested, but we had the audio and we had the pictures. Am I reading this right? Manchester United have put a public statement out saying that based on the evidence available, we've concluded that the material posted online did not provide a full picture and that Mason didn't commit the offences in respect of he was originally charged. Why are you getting rid of him then? I mean, I'm baffled. You've put a public statement out saying that he didn't do what he was charged with and the material posted online wasn't the full picture, and then you've decided to get rid of him. I'm baffled by Manchester United here. I'm absolutely baffled. If you have got new information, put it into the public domain. This lad will forever be tarnished with the evidence that was out online, the audio and the pictures. If you know that's not true, then look, the uproar from the fan base last week was because you were going to bring a player back that everybody'd heard the audio and seen the pictures. If that's not true, maybe you should have put that out there and let people know the truth before you made a decision. I'm baffled. I'm absolutely baffled by Man United's stance on this. They have to put the truth out there. Look, I'm somebody that's not comfortable with him back playing for Man United, but we should never, from a criminal point of view, what the person who put the pictures and the audio out there was ridiculously naive in the first place. You shouldn't do that. If you don't want to go to court and you don't want to do anything about it, then you shouldn't have put it out there. It should have gone to the police. That's where it should have gone, to be investigated. To put it out there, and really, basically, that is why people don't want Mason Greenwood to play for Man United, because of the audio and the pictures. If Man United are going to say that those audio and pictures aren't the true story, well, I'm sorry, I hate to be controversial here, but I'm going to sit here and stick my neck out and say, I'm completely not comfortable anymore. I mean, I'm not comfortable with this anymore. Like, we can only go with what we know. if United are now going to put a statement out saying the pictures and audio aren't true, well, I'm sorry, I might be the only person here saying, I want to know the truth. I don't want to sit here saying, I don't want him playing for Man United ever again if I don't know the truth. Now, if the audio and pictures are true, I don't want him anywhere near Man United. But this to me feels like a bloody joke. I just don't get. I don't actually get it. But it's PR to protect him. Well, it's fucking dangerous PR. It's very dangerous PR. Look, the bottom line is Man United have made a decision. If you'd asked me yesterday, or 2 days ago, or for the last few months, I'd be very happy with that decision. I think Mason Greenwood needs to go off, rehabilitate and build his life in football elsewhere. And I think Man United needs to try and maintain its values and integrity and move on itself. I haven't got a problem with that. But I think that this statement leads to more questions than answers. You want a definitive. And it feels to me like what this statement is trying to please everybody. And you're never going to do that. You're never going to do that. We've seen over the last few months that there's been massive division about this. Some people wanted him back, some people didn't. United just seemed to me to want to be able to please everybody. You either bring him back or you kick him out. You don't kick him out and then say he didn't do it. Like, that to me is weird. I'm sorry. And look, it's hard for me to give a definitive on this because I'm absolutely confused. Now, I'm confused. I'm confused, and I'm not normally confused. You know, it's a weird one. Greg says email was sent out to members. Mark from Arnold could be worth sharing. Says Greg. Look, I'm trying to gather the information whilst live, which is always, I think it's a good thing, but it's also a difficult thing because there's lots and lots of stuff coming out. But the bottom line is Manchester United will be. There's a Mason Greenwood statement here as well. Let's read this. I want to start by saying I understand that people will judge me because of what they have seen and heard on social media, and I know people will think the worst. I was brought up to know that violence or abuse in any relationship is wrong. I did not do the things I was accused of, and in February I was cleared of all charges. You weren't cleared of all charges. The charges were dropped because they couldn't take it to court. That's a wrong interpretation of that, I'm afraid. We all know that it didn't go to court. The charges were dropped. You weren't cleared. Cleared of all charges means you went to court and you were found not guilty. The charges were dropped. However, I fully accept I made mistakes in my relationship and I take my share of responsibility for the situations which led to the social media post. I'm learning to understand my responsibilities to set a good example as a professional footballer, and I'm focused on the big responsibility of being a father as well as a good partner. Today's decision has been part of a collaborative process between Manchester United, my family and me. The best decision for us all is for me to continue my football career away from Old Trafford, where my presence will be a distraction for the club. I thank the club for their support since I joined age 7. There will always be a part of me which is United. I'm enormously grateful to my family and all my loved ones for their support, and it is now for me to repay the trust those around me have shown. I intend to be a better footballer, but most importantly a good father, a better person, and to use my talents in a positive way on and off the pitch. I've just got to say, there is no winner in this. There is no winner in this situation, is there? Do you feel with Mason Greenwood leaving that you've won? Do you feel that with Mason Greenwood leaving that you've lost? Has he won? Has the club won? Has football won? I just think that the whole situation is baffling. On the one hand, I didn't do it. On the other hand, I need to learn from my mistakes. What did you do? What did you do and what didn't you do? What did Man United find out and what didn't they find out? Because where I'm struggling here is if United are putting statements out saying you didn't do it but we're getting rid of him anyway, why are you getting rid of him? Like I just think this has generated more questions than answers. Ultimately, I think something's gone on and we just don't know. And as I say, I'm rather baffled by the statements that have come out, and I think that it's going to lead to more questions than answers here, and it's going to lead to more issues. Now, CX, I'm going to start reading some of your chats. He says it's because it's a distraction to the club. Absolute bollocks, mate. Absolute bollocks. Man United are not terminating the contract of a player who's been linked to quite serious domestic assaults because because it's a distraction. You ride that distraction out. If he's innocent and he's never done it, then people need to know the story behind that, don't they? No longer supporting United because they won't support an abusive prat. Good riddance. Say everything about you, says Raza. No longer supporting United because they won't support an abusive prat. Good riddance. Okay, says Raza. As a young man that has supported United all my life, I honestly don't think United is a club for me anymore, says Abuka. And this wasn't a difficult decision. I don't know how it took so long, says Sean. I mean, it's not a difficult decision, Sean, if you know what the story is. But look, as I said, in the Man United official statement, they've said this. We have investigated this. We have looked at the evidence not in the public domain. We have based our evidence on what was available to us, and we have concluded that the material that was posted online, i.e. the photos and the audio, did not provide a full picture, and that Mason did not commit the offences in respect of which he was originally charged. Well, he was charged with crimes that related to those pictures and the audio. So they're basically saying that the audio and the pictures are not, genuine. But that said, as Mason publicly acknowledges, he made mistakes which he's taken responsibility for. What mistakes did he make if he didn't do... I wish I had the answers here. And hopefully the answers will come out, because obviously there's going to be a lot of people, including you people and me, who are like, what the hell is that statement all around? And, if he didn't do it, then, what did he do? It is ridiculous. Mason is gone. I hope Man United's problems are over. I hope we can start winning again, says Xscape. Well, look, on a footballing sense, and we're sort of dealing with real life and football here, of course. I was thinking about this because I was told about 10 minutes before this broke that something was going to happen. And obviously your brain starts thinking. And I thought, well, you know what? There's people in our community that want Mason Greenwood back. There's going to be people in our community that read that statement and still want him back. There's going to be people in the community that didn't want him back and actually think, maybe I did want him back now. There'll be people who thought, I didn't want him back and I definitely don't want him back. There'll be people in the United club who were going to bring him back. Maybe Eric Ten Hag wanted him back and he's furious. I don't know. RSB says if she lied, then them exposing the full truth might mean she gets charged. Some things are just to be read between the lines, says RSB. Mate, but you know what? If she lied and made it up and took fake pictures and did a fake audio, then his career's been destroyed by her. So, Man United can't destroy a person's career on a lie. You can't. So I don't think that's the assumption to take. And ultimately, that poor girl is going to get. If you think that happened, then that poor girl could end up getting years of abuse from people in the street and all sorts. The club can't leave that hanging. What they've put out there, they can't insinuate things like that, and I don't think they are. I just don't think we know the truth. How come United can find out what happened with Mason, but the police and the courts can't find out the truth? Says Valerie. Well, the police and the courts do know what's happened, but you can't. It's very difficult to go to court with a case where certain people won't give evidence, I suppose. The court of public opinion is not a real court. Why aren't people talking about the false accusation then? She is just as guilty. Well, why is it false, Cal? You need to be very careful. What are you talking about, false accusation? Did you actually expect to get a definitive answer? In the words of Gary Neville, this is Manchester United. If he's truly innocent, he would be staying, says Jermaine. It's his personal life. You don't have to know everything. He just needs to get away from the club, guilty or not, and that's what is decided, says Akshay. So, I mean, look, this is not a criminal court. This is fan opinion. It's a court of public opinion. Are you happy with this decision? Just a straight yes or no poll. Are you happy with this Greenwood decision? What I would say is I always follow the evidence. If one of my best friends says to me, John down the road's a complete idiot, never talk to him, and I see John in the pub and John buys me a pint and wants to chat, I'm not going to say you're an idiot because my best mate says you're an idiot. I'm going to give him a chance, because maybe my best mate doesn't like John because he did something that upset him that really doesn't impact on me. So I'll always follow what the evidence is. And the evidence that we always had, or the information, maybe not the evidence, the information that we had was in the public domain for 18 months. Nobody ever came out and said that that was a deep fake audio or, photoshopped images. Nobody ever said that. No outlets, nobody. We've never been told that. We have never said that. I said that when I was in Mallorca last week. If somebody'd come out after 2 months and said, those pictures are fake, that audio is fake, then we would all have a different opinion. But that's never happened. So I'm not going to assume that that is the case. But Man United have just put a statement out almost insinuating that is the case. And I think they've almost made things worse. They've almost made things worse because this whole statement from Mason Greenwood and the club now reads, he's not done anything wrong, but we've decided to let him go. Am I the only one taking that? Those statements seem to say, he's not done anything wrong, but we're going to let him go, but he accepts he has done something wrong. But we don't know what it is. It's almost like it's trying to please everybody. And ultimately, the truth should come out. Put the truth out. We're all capable of dealing with it. And I'm not going to sit here and say, if the truth is something very different, well, maybe he should be playing for Man United still. I mean, I don't know what that truth would be that would create that situation. But it's an odd one for me. Thomas, thank you very much. It's baffling. It's really baffling, says Showtime Win. They have opened up a big can of worms. I do think they could have handled it better, and I'm left scratching my head. Mate, they've handled it terribly. Absolutely terribly. If you think about the people who've been offended by this on both sides, they've handled it absolutely terribly. And, you know, they might think they've done a thorough job, but, you know, if you go out onto your front garden and wash your car for 4 hours and you think you've done a good job and there's a load of shit all over it, other people will have a different opinion. And I think that ultimately United needed to put something out definitive. They didn't need to leave a grey area, and they've left a massive grey area. Statement of Man United provides more questions than answers, says Sean. If truly innocent, don't show it, but talk about it with consent, then this useless point, says Sean. Have you read the club announcement sent to members via email? It clear offers some more clarity, says Ryan. I haven't seen this. Let me see if I can get hold of it whilst we're live, because I'd love to read that. I should be able to get it for you. If he plays for a top Premier League club or European team in the future, we will soon find out how many rival fans found their morals under the sofa because it's a United player, says Glenny Boy. Yeah, very interested to see that. Can't wait to start winning games by having morals, says Yef. Let me see if I can find this for you. Apparently members have had a more definitive update. Lots of people saying it's a weird statement. Let's see if we can find it here. Well, get your comments in. Mason Greenwood will not play for Manchester United again, is the bottom line. Adam Crafton, who's reported quite well on this in The Athletic, says Manchester United have today announced that Mason Greenwood will continue his career elsewhere, U-turning on the plan communicated by CEO Richard Arnold to executive leadership last week, following reported and backlash by charities, MPs and fans. To say that the official statement from the club has generated more questions than answers would be a huge understatement. And I think, you know, I think that whatever side of the fence you were on as a United fan, I don't think anybody sat there strong in their own conviction anymore, because they've created massive grey areas. You know, as I say, I just keep wandering back to this section of the United statement where they say, based on the evidence available to us, we've concluded that the material posted online did not provide a full picture and that Mason did not commit the offences. Well, maybe you want to put the story behind that out there, because I'm baffled by it. Some members of staff at Man United were prepared to consider their positions at the club if Greenwood and others began to explore going on, and others were going to go on strike. Apparently there's more information that can be obtained that we're trying to get hold of for you while we're live on air. I put a poll on as to whether you're happy with the decision that Manchester United have taken. Currently, it's split 50-50. 53% are not happy. Well, 47% are. He's in, he's out, blah, blah. This whole saga is symbolic of the instability in the club. And since when do the Glazers care about what the fans think? Says Give It to Mikey. The club is at rock bottom, says Marcus. Sickening. I haven't had enough of these owners. Time to start supporting rugby. The guy deserved a chance. One of our rivals will buy him for nothing, says Marcus. I don't think they will. Richard Arnold has made a statement which shares a bit of information, but apparently can't share all, says Luke. The burden of proof is on the government to prove guilt. They failed. Due process requires presumption of innocence. He's innocent. Contract terminated. Disregards hundreds of years of common law, says Bryce. It's not that. It's not that. You know, you're delving into law, mate. We're not here to talk about the law. That's not what here's to discuss. The minute that audio and images went onto social media, you know, criminal law, common law went out the window, mate. Because people will make their own mind up. People watch Coronation Street and say people are guilty. It's a soap. This is real life. Somebody posted pictures and an audio in real life on social media. And the day that happened, and I said it 18 months ago, the day that went online, it's over. How many footballers have been accused of serious offences and we never know the detail? All you hear is such and such has been accused of such and such sexual offence or domestic abuse. And then 6 months later, charges are dropped. No one ever hears anything. We never knew anything about it. Such and such player continues their career. Whether you like it or not, in relation to this Mason Greenwood case, if those audio and pictures had never gone out there, people wouldn't even know what the evidence was. And therefore, maybe he would be back as a United player. Is it right or wrong that that information went out there? I don't know. But ultimately, the minute it did, the minute we were going to come to this point, because the evidence, or whatever it is, was put online. We need the management to show as the result of the investigation, but time to move on. Remember Case and Giggs' case, but no one cancelled them, says Delta. I hope you're happy, Mark, says Samuel. Yeah, mate, I'm ecstatic. Yeah, I'm over the moon. It was my decision. I decided to kick him out of the club, so yeah, I'm over the moon. Grow up. Richard Arnold's statement is very long, but ultimately explains he was satisfied Mason did not commit the acts he was charged with, says Matt. Well, maybe Richard Arnold should grow a pair and do a proper statement then, instead of writing emails. Because ultimately, mate, you can't play both sides. You were going to bring him back. A week later, you're not going to bring him back. You're putting statements out there that you were happy he didn't do it. Stop writing emails and do a bloody press conference. I mean, it's quite a serious topic. I would say. I'd say people have got questions. I think Richard Arnold's got to go. As a CEO, I think he's got to go. I think the way he's played this is ridiculous. It's almost like he's trying to protect himself. He's trying to appease everybody. I've got rid of him for you, but for the one who wanted to keep him, I don't think he did it. Like, that's the guy who's running our football club. He's playing all the sides. I've got rid of him, but I don't think he did it. I mean, that's not... I don't want that. Do you want that? I want the truth. It's not bloody a few good men. He's not Jack Nicholson. I can handle the truth. Give us the truth. That's what we're asking for. Give us the truth. I'm happy with the decision he's gone, but I'm not happy with the decision to release the terrible statement full of contradiction, says White. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Honestly, his latest statement sounds like victim shaming. That's so bloody wrong, says Jordan. Problem is that public opinions were so strong based on limited information. There are always limitations. It's sad that we were so quick to judge based on limited information. Mate, in fairness to the people who judged it, there was an audio clip and there were pictures. It's not limited information. It's been in the public domain for 18 months and no one's ever said it was fake. I don't think you can blame people for that. If you go past McDonald's and they've got a picture of a Big Mac for £3, you assume it's a Big Mac for £3. Like, I just think the whole thing is ridiculous, really. Absolutely ridiculous. And a new statement's coming out. Let's see if we can get hold of that. We could be live for a little bit yet as we try to establish what's going on. Internal risk assessment documents prepared by the club had categorised external stakeholders such as politicians, pundits and individual journalists and made assumptions as to whether they would view Greenwood's return as supportively or with hostility. Charities that specialise in violence against women were assumed to be hostile. I think we all know about that. I've read about that before. I think that's all coming in from the Adam Crafton stuff. Generating more questions than answers here. If anybody has got reference to this further information that's coming out, I'd really appreciate it if you could point us in the direction, because I'm hearing more and more about it, but nothing concrete that I can read out, which is frustrating, because there's this rumour, well, not even rumour, there's talk of additional information that nobody seems to have reference to here. I really like Mason as a footballer. Not going to say about abuse. It looks like something happened for sure. Statement is a mess, says Singh in UK. They've got rid of him. Who are they replacing him with? You've taken away another striker from Ten Hag, so they better act fast, says Sean Turner. Mark, I believe that Mason is the perfect answer to our striker situation, says Cal, which makes this situation extremely frustrating. The club have given in to cancel culture. It's the sign of the times, says Audi. Mark, remember the statement from the police said they were dropping the charges based on new evidence and witnesses' withdrawal, says Sir Marcus. And Richard Arnold on Twitter. Richard Arnold's not on Twitter, is he? There's an open letter on Man United's page. Right, okay. Let's get there. An open letter from Richard Arnold. Here we go. Got it. So, this is from Richard Arnold. Now that we have concluded and announced the outcome of the club's investigation into Mason Greenwood, I want to be direct and transparent with our fans about the process. This was an internal disciplinary investigation between employer and employees which would ordinarily take place outside of the public eye. Given the public nature of the allegations, I acknowledge that this was not an ordinary situation, but I felt important that we still follow due process. When audio footage and imagery was posted in January 2020, my feelings were of shock and concern for the victim. Her welfare, wishes and perspective have been central to the club's approach. While we immediately concluded that Mason should be suspended, we were also conscious of our duty of care towards him. Until February this year, this was a matter for the police and the Crown Prosecution Service. On our investigation, we sought to collate as much evidence as possible to establish the facts. This was not a quick or straightforward process. Also, we have limited powers of investigation, which meant we were reliant on third-party cooperation. Timings have always been influenced by my desire to minimise the impact of the investigation. Whilst we're unable to access certain evidence for reasons we respect, the evidence we did collate led us to conclude that Mason did not commit the acts he was charged with. I am restricted to what I can say for legal reasons, including the alleged victim's ongoing right to anonymity, but I am able to share the following with which should give you some insight to the complexity of the case. The alleged victim requested the police to drop the investigation in April 2022. We were provided with alternative explanations for the audio recording, which was a short excerpt from a much longer recording, and for the images posted online. The alleged victim's family participated in the process and were given the opportunity to review and correct our factual findings. Last week, the media reported that we had decided to reintegrate Mason, and that elements of a plan to do so had been leaked to them. Reintegration was one of the outcomes we considered and planned for. For context, over the course of the past 6 months, several outcomes have been contemplated and planned for, and my view has evolved as our process progressed. While the ultimate decision rested with me, I was taking various factors and views into account. While I'm satisfied that Mason did not commit the acts he was charged with, Mason's accepted that he has made mistakes which he takes responsibility for. I am also mindful of the challenge that Mason would face rebuilding his career. Although we have decided that Mason will seek to rebuild his career away from Manchester United, that does not signal the end of this matter. The club will continue to offer its support to the victim and Mason to help them rebuild and move forward. Okay, that does give a lot more information. There's two big key things in here as well that I would say. So we're starting to gather a little bit more information here. Never liked the kid before this saga, and it doesn't even have to do with football. If they found no evidence he did it, why terminate it, says Biggie. That statement leaves a sour taste in my mouth. He made a mistake and he's innocent. Horrid club, horrid CEO, says HW. They can't have it both ways, saying he's done nothing wrong, but then say they don't want him to play. Exactly, Aldo. And Mason says he was cleared of all charges, so with the pictures doctored of the victim, his charges dropped by victim considered he didn't do it. Look, I can only offer you opinion here, but reading Richard Arnold's statement adds a little bit more clarity. In the United statement, initially, it said that they're basically saying that what was put online, he didn't do it. What Richard Arnold is now saying is that victim wanted to drop the investigation early on. We've never, I don't think, had that put out there publicly. Now, the victim has anonymous. I can't do it. He's meant to be anonymous. I think everybody knows who the victim is. That's one thing. The victim would be the partner, if everybody is assuming correctly, of Mason Greenwood. It is very common in domestic abuse for victims to withdraw and not want to get involved, and any domestic abuse charity will confirm that. That makes it very difficult for an investigation anyway, but not impossible. So the second part says, we were provided with alternative explanations for the audio recording, which was a short excerpt from a much longer recording, and for the images posted online. I'm sorry, look, we cannot, should not, and will not ever have the full story, because that's not how it works. You don't get access to police information. It looks to me like Manchester United have spoken to the people involved, and everybody is telling the same story, that the images and the audio can be explained. Now, do you believe that there's a logical explanation for those photos and that audio? And I think that's as good as it's going to get. This is nothing to do with me. I'm not making the decision. Manchester United have. But reading it now, Man United clearly want to put it out there that they don't believe the pictures and the audio. That's what they're basically putting out there. Now, I suppose the flip side to that coin is that many victims of domestic abuse defend the person who did it and said it didn't happen. That happens. So ultimately, you're in a position here where whether you want to go along with the club who are saying, they believe it didn't happen, or aspects of it didn't happen, or whether you think that's just normal behaviour for a victim to just defend the person that they love. I don't know the truth, and we won't ever know the truth. On reflection, I think this is the right decision. I think it's the right decision, because he is never going to move past it, and the club would never move past making that decision. So I think the decision is right. I don't agree with the statement. I think it puts too many questions out there, and I think everybody's just going to have to make their own mind up about it. But really, it reads to me like United have spoken to people who will want the club to believe that he didn't do it, because that's in everybody's best interest. It's in Greenwood's interest to stay at Man United. It's in his partner's interest that he stays at Man United. It's in her family's interest that he stays at United. It's in his family's interest that he stays at United. It's in the Glazers' interest that he stays at United, because financially it works best for all of them, doesn't it? Who knows what the truth is? My definitive line on this is, and I'll go back to what I said a few minutes ago, and everyone's going to have an opinion, and that's absolutely fine, and I'll read some of yours out in a minute. But I'll go back to what I said in January 2022. When the audio and pictures went online, it was over. They never should have gone out there anyway. That's not how you deal. If somebody is abusing you, if somebody is hitting you, if somebody is forcing you to do things you don't want to do, you don't put it on Instagram or Twitter. You go to the police and you let them investigate it. And the minute it went on Instagram and Twitter, or wherever else it went, it was over. And I said it at the time, and many of you agreed, that was over. Because Manchester United as a football club cannot operate around that doubt. You cannot operate and forget and move on. And I think they've probably tried to, but ultimately there was only ever one way they could solve all this. And I said this last week. The only way this was going to get solved is if somebody came out and said, I made it up. I made it up, the audio, the pictures, and then the person who comes out and says they made it up and did the pictures, they're in for a life of abuse anyway. So it was a very, very difficult situation for everybody involved. There was never going to be a winner. I don't think I'm a winner. I don't think you're a winner. I don't think football's a winner. I don't think Mason Greenwood or his partner's a winner. I don't think Man United's a winner. I don't think Richard Arnold's a winner. I think everybody's a loser in this. And I suppose it shows you the damage that social media can do. But ultimately, I think United have made the right decision, because I think everybody needs to move on from it. And I've seen people in the chat saying, "Oh, if he goes and scores goals for Lazio or somebody else now, and we'll miss out." Well, look, that's a hindsight thing. In 2 years' time, maybe that's how you will feel. But if he was back in a Man United shirt now, I think the uproar and the backlash would be absolutely massive. Bryce says, if they are satisfied that he did not commit the acts of accused, then why on earth is he being terminated? Speaking of the social media post, everyone involved has denied that it was legitimate. Tony says, why did we release him? We have more questions than answers now, says Tony. Not going to incriminate anyone, but was told the videos are real. This is coming from players in the youth, says Adam. Sell or terminate contract. If selling, how much do you think the club will get? And look, can we just say as well, a lot of people are saying, well, it's clearly not real. It's clearly not real. In the United statement and in the Mason Greenwood statement, he acknowledges he's made mistakes and he's got to learn from them. So what mistakes did he make? I don't know. Sell or terminate contract. If selling, how much do you think the club will get? Terrible way to handle the situation, whether you wanted him or not, says Anthony. Sam says they probably decided to reintegrate. It got leaked. Arnold changed his mind because of the backlash. He can't return either way, in my opinion. Opposition fans, women's teams, dressing rooms, etc., says Sam Lawson. What we heard was 15 seconds of a 5-minute clip. So the club and Arnold mentioned he listened to the full clip, which we need to hear the full thing, says GGG. You know what? I think we need to move on. I think we need to move on. I think United have to move on, and we need to move on, because we can't keep going up and down on this. Read that one as well. Sean, I think we read this, but it's very true. Statement of Man United provides more questions than answers. If truly innocent, don't show it, but talk about it with consent, then this useless point. I think we'd read that one before from Sean. Thank you very much. Still a 50-50 split. 48% of you are happy that Greenwood has been released by Manchester United. 52% of you not happy. I think we'll keep it around that, because it's been around that for a long time. What do you think is going to happen with Anthony? I don't know. I mean, look, as far as I'm aware, I don't know that anything's happening with Anthony. I've just seen somebody online there saying that Arnautovic, Greenwood, this is what happens when fans stand up and say they don't want things to happen, like it's a positive thing. What other updates have we got here? Lots of people having their say. You know, look, life's never bloody straightforward, is it? You know, I would like United to just have released a statement saying that Mason Greenwood's been released, and we'll be making no further comments on it. I think that would have been nice and clean. I think that the clarity that they've added is more about arse covering why they were thinking about bringing him back. I think basically what United's statement reads to me, and Richard Arnold's statement reads to me, and Mason Greenwood's statement reads to me, and I think this is why a lot of people on both sides will be pissed off. I mean, I imagine some of the domestic abuse charities will be pissed off by that statement. I imagine that people that really didn't want him back will be pissed off by that statement, as much as the people who did want him back are pissed off. And I think the reason people will be pissed off is that the statement reads that we're letting him go reluctantly. Well, that won't please. I might be completely misreading the room, but we all react in an emotive way. The statement from United reads like, reluctantly, we're going to let him go. There's no definitive hard answer. He's coming back. He's gone. It's like, we nearly brought him back, but we're going to let him go. That's what the statement reads to me. There's no definitive hard line. You know, we're backing the player, we're bringing him back against all the backlash, or we agree with the backlash, we're getting rid of him. It's like we really nearly brought him back, but we've decided that actually it's probably not a good idea. And that, to me, is a bit weak. It's a bit weak. And I'm not saying I'd rather the alternative. I'm not saying that. But I would like a club of Manchester United's stature to be a little bit more stronger in its conviction on bigger decisions. And I empathise with everybody here. Like, I think there'll be people who are still on the fence. I think there'll be people who wanted him to go, who aren't really happy with the statement's, greyness. And I think there'll be people who want him back who are going, well, you nearly brought him back, So I think that, yeah. But obviously, I'll also be fair and say none of us know the full evidence. I would argue I don't think United know the full story. I think United have been told a story, but I think the story that United will have been told. And when you read Richard Arnold's story statement, he's clearly had all the information from the victim and the player and their families. Have they had the information from the police? Have the police given their opinion? I don't know. Mason Greenwood backed United into a corner, and the only reason a mutual termination was agreed was if a statement like this, which paints him well, was released. Good point. There could be PR spin on it. You're right, HW. The distribution it would potentially cause if he stayed with media and fans have made the right decision, says Tabo. Mark, this is a cowardly U-turn from an initial money-driven decision. A wise friend said this is to me 4 years ago. Your club will not win anything noteworthy as long as the focus is money-driven, says Wayne. So they probably decided to reintegrate. I've done that one from Sam. Keep your thoughts coming in. Look, I want to get as many of them as possible, and I'm not going to ignore the fact that there's two sides here. And I will even admit that the statements, there has to be two sides. I don't actually think that you're wrong on either side of this based on the statement that United have put out, because it's very grey. The statement will transfer so much hate to his partner, says Dio. That will be massively unfortunate. And I don't know whether I was comfortable saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't know whether it was Manchester United's intention, but Richard Arnold's statement and Manchester United's statement puts a lot of focus onto the victim, or alleged victim in this case. And is that a good idea? They say they've got a duty of care to the victim, but I think the information they put out has will naturally lead to a lot of people asking questions about that now. But look, I'll say what I said last week. This is a football club. We've lost a game of football at the weekend, and on a Monday, we're talking about very serious allegations that are nothing to do with football. The football club has become embroiled in a very serious matter that I don't think they've handled very well. And if Richard Arnold was an MP, I think he'd be sacked. I don't think we've handled this very well at all. I don't think his statement is very good. I obviously worked in the legal profession. I would not have authorised that statement. I don't think it. I think it probably. I don't think it serves anybody. Even as somebody that works in the industry of the media, I don't think his statement helps anyone. It doesn't help him. It doesn't help the victim. It doesn't help Greenwood. It doesn't provide clarity. It just provides frustration, uncertainty, and bemusement. I don't know how that statement got signed off. I think it's terrible. I think it's absolutely terrible. And it provides nobody with any clarity or integrity. And it provides the fan base with... It's like chucking petrol on a fire, if I'm being honest. That's what it feels like. It feels like there's something in that statement for everybody to get angry about. Whatever side of the argument you're on, you can cling on to that statement, you can cling on to that sentence. It gives everybody something, and it provides no absolution on whether the decision was right or not. How can you simultaneously say he didn't do something, but also say acknowledge his mistakes, says Landon? What mistakes were made if he did nothing wrong? Exactly. This is what I mean. The statements of Man United and Richard Arnold, for me, are trying to make everybody happy, but have actually made everybody pissed off. And that's the danger. When you try and pull off a PR piece, which is there to make everybody happy, it can, if you get it wrong, make everybody angry. So, as you say, he's made mistakes and he needs to learn from them, but he didn't do anything wrong. Hold on a minute. It's bad. One thing I will say is, though, that's not the end of it, because any journalist, and I'm not just talking about sports journalists here, I'm talking about any journalist in this country now, will smell the money. And they'll be like, we need an exclusive with Greenwood, we need an exclusive with the victim, we need to dig into the family, we need to try and find out what United, we need to speak to players at United. There'll be loads and loads and loads of stories that come out now. Likelihood Saudi come in for him, right decision to get rid of, but clubs should look to get a respectable fee for him and move for much needed targets, says Tom. Jeff, welcome to the Members Club. When do we start questioning the validity of the original claims if no evidence can be corroborated, says Boom. And what's the point of an investigation if they were kicking him out regardless of the result, says Richard. Well, apparently they were bringing him back last week. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Did the club fail him a little bit? But there were signs with the Phil Foden incident and others, says Brian. Look, you know what? In fairness, I've heard a lot of people say this, and I never really discuss it because I don't, we're talking about a very specific thing that's cost him his place at Manchester United. I'm fully aware of rumours and things around Mason Greenwood. There's a rumour about a game against Everton where Mason Greenwood missed the game and Ollie said he was injured and apparently something had gone on then. There was the England thing with Foden. But, you're bringing in bad character stuff there, and I don't think that's fair to do that. I don't think that's fair to do that. At the end of the day, I'd go back to what I've said a couple of times on this video. The minute the images and the audio went online in January 2022, I think we were always going to end up at this point, at this situation. The club brings pain and disappointment, says Chin. I think his career is doubtful at this stage. No big club is going to want him. This is a very sensitive matter, says Edrin. Well, you know what? I mean, looking at it from a future point of view, and I don't want to taint another club's name here, but if I was another Premier League club and I looked at bringing Mason Greenwood to my club, then what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to want to know the detail of Manchester United's investigation. You're not going to sign him on the basis of his word. You're going to want to know what happened. So that's something that Mason Greenwood's going to have to deal with, isn't it? I'm sure we're going to get more and more information coming out, but ultimately, I think that, I'm not here to make your minds up. That's very, very, very far from it. But I think the best thing that you can do is make your mind up and move on. What Manchester United cannot do now is change their mind again. They put a public statement out. They've released him. They've terminated his contract. They've parted on mutual terms. Whatever you want to say, he's been kicked out of Man United. And they need to stand by that now. Ultimately, if that's the right or wrong decision, it's a decision, and we need to move on from it as a football club. We haven't had him playing for 18 months anyway, and we're not going to have him playing again. So it's not like it's a shock to the system. He's not played for Man United since January 2022. It's approaching 2 years. We just need to move on as a football club now. I've been saying this all summer. It's not something that we could ever bury our head in the sands about. He is a player of Man United, and a decision needed to be made. A decision has been made now. I absolutely acknowledge that if you wanted him to come back, you must be fuming. If you didn't want him to come back, you must be fuming, because the statements put out there provide no clarity. But the clarity we do have is that he's not going to play for Man United again. And if there is any positive in this mess, it is that we have a decision. You might not be happy with the decision, you might be over the moon with the decision, but we do have a decision and we can move on from it. And I think for everybody's sanity, we do need to do that. So, yeah, but I have to also acknowledge the lack of clarity will cause a lot of frustration. I think the response to that poll being split is down to children around the world victim blaming, says Sam. And Arnold did say there's information he can't disclose legally, so I don't know what else you want from the statement, says J Law. Mate, I don't care about whether he can disclose stuff legally. Of course he can't disclose some stuff legally, but his statement makes no sense. Man United's statement makes no sense. They're basically saying he didn't do it, but he's made mistakes, and then they've got rid of him. That's my issue with that. Sad to see that so many fans can't see past the football and the way that people's lives are affected by this situation, says Do. And whatever happens next, just please no Piers Morgan interview, says Stephen. And I will say this to you. Despite the fact that up until this statement came out, I wasn't comfortable with Mason Greenwood playing for Man United because I always couldn't move past the audio and the imagery. I will say this. If the audio and imagery are fake and a player has been kicked out of Manchester United because they didn't do something, and that's a massive if, and I don't actually believe this, but if that was the case, then Man United have made a monumental mistake, because you've basically kicked somebody out of your football club and removed them for something they didn't do. That can't be right. And that can't be right whether you work for McDonald's, play for Manchester United, or work for the NHS. You shouldn't be losing your job because of public outcry when you didn't do it. And I don't for 1 minute believe that's happened, because that would be a huge injustice. So United's statement might read like that to you, but I absolutely cannot believe that United have booted someone out of the club for something they didn't do. Even though their statement sort of insinuates that. How ridiculous would that be to kick someone out of the club for something they didn't do? So I don't believe that. I don't believe United could be that stupid to do something like that. You cannot kick somebody out of a football club for something they didn't do. They must know something. Otherwise, why would you do it? You know, so... But the problem is we don't know. We don't know anything, really. Knowing how PR-driven this club, I expect us to make a signing within the next couple of days to change the topic. That statement is a joke, by the way. Yes, Mason, I think they need to... Well, we need to make signings anyway. Of course they do. Yellow Bathing Suit says, you're weird, Mark. Why are you angry now with the decision to let him go? I'm not angry with the decision to make him go. I think it's the right decision to let him go. But it's the wrong statement to put out there. Because read the statement, mate, and tell me why you'd be... Look, whatever side of the coin you're on, can anybody honestly sit here and go, I completely get what that's all about. I understand it. I completely get it. And Fabulous says, Mark is a dangerous person now changing his tone. I think you're a thick person because you're not listening. I don't for 1 minute believe Man United have kicked an innocent person out of the club, because that would be wrong. It would be a miscarriage. I think that the statement is all over the place, provides no clarity, and I think they've made the right decision to remove him from the football club, because you saw the backlash last week and it would have been terrible. I think it's right for him to move on elsewhere. I think it's right that he rehabilitates elsewhere. I think it's right that he rebuilds his club, his future elsewhere. But if Man United don't believe that, then they should have brought him back. And I'm not party to all the information. You're not party to all the information. I will always move off the audio and the images that were put out there in January, that now, 18 months later, somebody's trying to tell us that aren't real. Well, why didn't they tell us 6 months ago? Why didn't they tell us 3 months ago? These people who put the pictures and the audio out on Twitter, do you not think they've got friends who could also tweet it's not true? So, look, if you can't follow the path I'm going on, then I apologise. But what's very clear to me is that the statements and information that's been put out there are not clear. And what I'm acknowledging is that whether you wanted him back or you didn't want him back, there has to be frustration on both sides, because you've got no clarity. There is no clarity on this at all. My personal stance for what it means is, despite Man United's statement, despite Mason Greenwood's statement, and despite Richard Arnold's statement, I still look at the pictures and audio and go, it doesn't add up to me that that's not true. And that's my perception. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. Of course I could. But 18 months after those pictures and audio came out, we're now meant to believe that it's not true, because Man United have put a statement out. But then they're saying he made mistakes. We'll never get to the truth. We just have to deal with the decision and trust that the right decision has been made. obviously we're dealing with Man United here, and trust may not be a word that many people want to trust. And therefore, sadly, we will be left in a situation where we have a divided fan base on a very big decision, but we've got a decision. What is more likely, staying with a woman who made false accusations and ruined his life or career, or a victim staying with their abusers? Says Darren. It's a hypothetical, Darren. Make your mind up. Mark may have made stupid choices. Murta, Arnold, Pratt CEO from before. They've always been incompetent. Why can't they not mess this up? Says Carlson. In trying to appease both sides, they've equally pissed everyone off. Is there anything more symbolic of this club's owners? Glazers out. Jay, I'll go back to this statement from Manchester United. Based on the evidence available to us, we have concluded that the material posted online did not provide a full picture and that Mason did not commit the offences. That said, Mason acknowledges today that he's made mistakes which he's taking responsibility for. That one paragraph feeds both sides. The second part of it, he made mistakes and he's learning from them. The first part of it, he didn't do it. Tell me that's not a statement to play both sides. Tell me that's not a statement to try and make both people happy. That's where they've gone wrong here. They've provided no clarity. But they have provided clarity because a decision has been made. It's time to move on. Can we move on? Well, time will tell. Thanks everybody for watching. Have we got another show to come? I'm sure we will do. 7 o'clock tonight, I think we're live. Hopefully we can get back talking about football. I'm sure there's going to be more fallout from this. But all I can say is nobody's a winner. What an absolute mess. And as profound as it may not be or may be, I did say back in January 2022 that audio and picture being posted online was going to have consequences. And ultimately those consequences are where we are today. You can argue amongst yourself. The player can feel aggrieved. The club can feel aggrieved. They can get angry at what people are saying and people are not saying. But ultimately, look at the cause. Look at what happened. As the minute that audio and imagery went out online was always going to lead to this point. We are here because of that. That's the root. I wouldn't argue with yourselves. I wouldn't get angry. I wouldn't try and tell somebody you're right and they're wrong, or they're wrong and you're right, or Arnold, or this, that and the other. The bottom line is, the minute that audio and imagery went onto social media for the public to see, for the world to see, we were always going to end up at this point. And that's just the way it is. It's not everything has a happy ending, does it? United trying to paint over the cracks. Evidence was clear. You can't deny what was said in that video, says Sporty. And Mark, do you think due to legally he could not find guilty, they cannot say he's guilty? I agree with the decision. It's just taken too long, says Jay. Well, look, thanks everyone for watching. I think it's a really oh, hold on, there might be some new tweets coming out here. I was about ready to go. What I was actually going to say while I get these new tweets is that hold on. What I was actually going to say is that from a Manchester United fan point of view, which many of you are, you always want the fan base to try and be together. I'm not naive enough to expect everyone's going to start holding hands and having hugs, but it's difficult. Samuel Luckhurst, who's Manchester Evening News chief correspondent, says that had Man United communicated these statements last week, the reaction would have been one of acceptance. That they did a U-turn after another fan backlash reflects terribly on them. They can arrange as many puff pieces about fan engagement as they like, but they are still too obtuse. We can read that many ways as you like, but I think that ultimately what he's saying is that they should have just announced his departure a week ago and moved on. There's a lot to be said about the way that Man United are run. We're run very, very badly. I think ultimately we need new owners who clear house. You need a new CEO, a new director of football. But they've handled this situation really, really badly. There's no point in continuing on and on about it. They've handled it horrifically badly. And we are where we are. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. I appreciate your time. I know it's difficult. LJ says they're trying to play both sides so hard that it's making both sides hate them even more. Good point. And Leon says there can be context to a video. Maybe there might be a fetish. You can never have a full picture until you have the full context, says Leon. Loads of negativity around the club at the moment. The sale process dragging on. This and the squad not being in place yet, says Aldo. All I'd say, and I think there's a responsibility to do this, all I'd say is, if you are one of those people who think that the audio and the pictures are fake, you've basically got to believe two things. One, that somebody has put makeup and stuff all over their face to make it look like they've been beaten up. And two, that the wider context of that audio was that it was some sort of game. What are the chances of that being the case? Maybe it is true. Maybe it's not true. I don't know. Simon Stone's put a tweet out. Always like Simon Stone. Let's see what he's got to say. I think there's a lot of journalists putting some good stuff out at the moment because as reporters, they'll be absolutely baffled. Mason Greenwood remains on full pay. All options remain open future, but he's not coming back to train at Man United and no expectation of him playing for the club again post a loan or sale. Okay, so he's on full pay. All options are on the table, but he will not play for Manchester United again. Okay, there we go. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll be back at 7 o'clock. Take care and stay safe and try and stay calm. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Speak to you all in a bit.